Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Happy Friday. Today's philosophical quote is from Cristina Rosetti, and it is, can anything be sadder than work left unfinished? Then she answers herself, yes, work never begun. Ain't it the truth? And we can associate that with work at work. You know, we're waiting on somebody's report and they ain't even started yet. But this is, of course, in reference to life in general. Can anything be sadder than work left unfinished? Yes, work never begun. And I was not that familiar with Cristina Rossetti, but she had an interesting, really interesting life. And I will drop a couple links into the description box of her. She was a poet and a writer who had a very dark and depressed life, as often poets do. Poets are often so deep in their thought, they can typically become distraught in um, within their soul. But just a brief introduction to Cristina Rosetti. She was born December 1830, died in December 1894, and she had a very affectionate family, but they struggled with the same types of things. Her father had a mental breakdown. She had a religious encounter in which she was questioning um, her views, I would say, right in her midlife. It was almost like a midlife crisis. But both her and her brother, who is Daniel Gabriel Rosetti, was very, how can you put it, creative in their artistic ways. He was an artist, and Cristina had sat down and posed for many of his most famous writings, but they were a well-known name in England. She had written a couple of very famous Christmas carols there. She wrote many poetry books, authored many devotional books, and she was very well known, but she was often found to be sad in her soul. Bouts of depression was very common in her family, although they were very known to be very affectionate. Many of them worked in nonprofits, giving a lot of charity, working in brotherhood, working in Catholicism. And I think a lot of her studies and a lot of her poetry made her, and these are my words, but you can also see the leaning towards that in the clean submission of her autobiography in her um, website, which I'll put the link in the description box. But her discovery in working that closely with a lot of administration for religious pursuits and charities, and she began to question a lot of things as to why these things aren't ever resolved and why they remain so, why they continue to grow despite the fact we're working so hard to end some of these things. So, I mean, this is a common thing we struggle with, that we want no pain in this world, and we want no darkness in this world. We want no sickness, but it continues to be forever prevalent. So she began to question, I would say question God. Now, those are my words, but the leaning of her autobiography showed that she was very uncomfortable in her religious understanding as she began to work with this. And some of her poetry began to show some of that. But nonetheless, she was a great writer and author, and very challenged in some of her views, but she made a great contribution. And certainly this quote is one that we shall remember. Can anything be sadder than work left unfinished? Yes, work never begun. So let's get to it. Let's get the work done. And I love you. I hope you enjoyed this short video, Philosophical Friday. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you next week. If you haven't clicked subscribe, do it now. And leave a nice comment. Click like. Take care. Bye. Happy weekend.